The glass walls of Nexum Technologies gleamed like a cathedral of success, blue steel, soft LED light, and the faint hiss of air conditioning tuned to perfection. Naomi Ellison's heels made almost no sound against the marble floor, but her pulse ticked in time with each step. She had walked into hundreds of boardrooms before, yet something about this one, the whiteness of it, the symmetry, the practiced efficiency felt colder than usual. "Ms. Ellison, they're expecting you," said the receptionist, a young woman with a smile too bright to be genuine. She gestured toward a set of smoked glass doors that opened with a hydraulic sigh. Naomi thanked her softly and stepped inside. The room was built for intimidation. A table the color of poured concrete, 12 leather chairs. The city's skyline framed like a painting behind Dorian Kincaid, CEO. He didn't rise when she entered. His hair was the kind that cost more than a semester of college, his cufflinks gleaming like weaponry. Around him sat his lieutenants' white shirts, identical watches, practiced laughter that stopped the second she appeared. Naomi extended her hand across the table. "Mr. Kincaid, Naomi Ellison. Ellison Capital." He looked at her hand, then at her, and smiled thinly. "I don't shake hands with staff." A silence folded over the room. The air seemed to contract. Someone cleared his throat. Too loudly. Naomi's hand remained suspended for one extra beat before she withdrew it. The movement measured, almost graceful. "I'm not staff," she said, evenly. Kincaid's grin deepened. That particular kind of corporate condescension honed by decades of impunity. "Then what are you doing in my building?" She placed her leather folio on the table. The soft thump echoed like punctuation. "Evaluating whether Nexum is ready for a $2 billion capital infusion." The sentence hit like a small detonation. The room went very still. Kincaid's smile faltered. Not much, just a twitch around the mouth, but enough. Behind him, one of his executives shifted his weight, the squeak of leather loud in the hush. From the corner, Naomi saw Lydia Hart, Nexum's COO, lower her eyes, hiding something between embarrassment and relief. At the doorway, the security guard, Reggie, tall, dark-skinned, quietly observant, stood a little straighter. He had heard every word. Kincaid recovered quickly. "Well," he said, gesturing at the seat opposite him, "let's see what you've got." Naomi sat. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and money. She smoothed her notes, the leather cool beneath her palms, and clicked her silver tape measure, an unconscious habit. The soft metallic sound made one executive glance up in confusion. Kincaid launched into a monologue about innovation and efficiency. His tone, the same he used for television interviews, practiced sincerity overlaid with boredom. Naomi listened, eyes steady, pen unmoving. Every claim about inclusion, every phrase about meritocracy. She logged mentally. When he finished, she asked, "Your Q2 filings show a 22% reduction in R&D spend, yet you claim expansion in research capacity. How do those reconcile?" He blinked, caught off guard. "That's a matter of internal allocation. You know how accounting can be." "I do," she said. "That's why I'm asking." His jaw tightened. Around the table, glances were exchanged like currency. "Perhaps we can discuss topics more appropriate for a preliminary meeting," he said finally, "such as Nexum's commitment to diversity initiatives." The emphasis on appropriate landed like a slap. Naomi smiled faintly, though her stomach had gone cold. "Of course, I'd like to see your executive retention statistics for underrepresented groups." Kincaid's brow creased. "Our diversity officer can provide that later. I'd prefer to hear it from leadership," she replied. The silence this time was heavier. Somewhere behind her, the HVAC unit hummed, steady as a heartbeat. Finally, Kincaid pushed his chair back. The scrape deliberate. "Let's take a short break," he announced, Melissa coffee for our guest. Cream and sugar. I assume, he said it lightly, a smirk tugging his mouth. The implication was obvious. Two of his men chuckled under their breath. Naomi's expression didn't flicker. She closed her folio with a precise snap, the sound echoing. Black, she said. No sugar. Kincaid stared at her for a moment, weighing insolence against worth. Then he shrugged. Suit yourself. When he left the room, the tension didn't. Lydia Hart remained seated, hands folded, eyes fixed on a spreadsheet that wasn't open. Reggie the guard stepped aside as Naomi walked out, his expression unreadable. In the corridor, Naomi exhaled, long and quiet. She walked until she reached a small service alcove beside the elevators. There, away from cameras, she pulled out her phone. The recording app glowed red, the entire exchange captured. She studied the waveform for a second, then whispered, measured, the old mantra. From the glass reflection, she caught her own face, controlled, serene. But the line between her brows hadn't softened. When she exited the building, the Georgia air hit her humid, metallic, smelling faintly of rain on steel. She paused by the fountain outside, watching water loop endlessly in its polished basin. A pair of interns passed behind her, laughing about that diversity lady who freaked the boss out. Naomi didn't turn. She'd learned long ago that outrage wasted oxygen. Instead, she opened her portfolio, checked the file headers on her tablet, and marked one entry, Nexum Incident Umpere, timestamp verified. In her car, the quiet wrapped around her like armor. She drove without music, letting the city blur by billboards for tech conferences, cranes slicing the dusk, men in suits crossing against the light. Her father's voice surfaced, uninvited, from memory. Measure twice, cut once. People will always test your edges. She parked outside her firm's low, modern building. Inside, the lights were still on. Rhea and Andre hunched over their laptops, running audit scripts. When they looked up, Naomi simply nodded. How bad? Andrea asked. Bad enough to be worth it. She said. She walked to her office, placed the folio on her desk, and turned on the desk lamp. The cone of light was narrow, the rest of the room falling into soft shadow. She replayed the recording once, only once, then archived it with a hash code and timestamp. On her wall hung a framed photo of her father in his small measuring shop, his hands guiding a tape across a wooden beam. The silver tool she now carried had once been his. She clicked it open, the sound crisp in the quiet, and laid it across her keyboard. The numbers gleamed faintly. 12 inches exactly. Outside her window, lightning flashed over the city, brief, silent, electric. Naomi's reflection merged with it for a heartbeat, then faded. Tomorrow, the audit would begin, but tonight she sat still, listening to the storm roll in, feeling the weight of something shift inside her. Not rage, not fear, but clarity, the kind that comes before impact. She whispered to the empty room, "Let's see what you measure up to, Mr. Kincaid." And as thunder murmured beyond the glass, the red light of her recorder blinked once, then went dark. The office woke before the sun machines humming, screens lifting themselves from sleep, the smell of burnt dust and fresh coffee combing the air. Naomi keyed into the war room. Whiteboard, 3 monitors on an arm, a portable right blocker, blinking its tiny green pulse like a patient heartbeat. Andre was already there in a hoodie, sleeves shoved to elbows. He'd taped a sheet to the wall, data provenance map, arrows, timestamps, a box labeled HRIS export, and another labeled SFTP mirror, with a question mark. Morning, he said without turning. I pulled the headcount tables. Something's off. How off? Naomi asked. He pointed with a capped marker. Executive retention logs by demographic. Every quarter has a tidy curve. Then Q3 last year. 5% of entries gone. Not zero. Missing. Nulls where IDs should be. Ria set a cardboard tray of paper cups on the table, black for Naomi. Milk for herself. Chain of custody first, she said. If we touch it, we log it. Naomi nodded. She slid a manila pouch across the table, wrote pouch 1 and Nexum HRIS export in her small Avon hummed, then read aloud. Opened 0653. Eastern. Operator Ellison, witnesses Torres and Baptiste. She clicked the little thermal printer. The tape spit out a strip of numbers like a thin receipt. She stuck it to the sheet and felt the glue bite. Run the export again, she said to Andre. From the read-only mirror, no admin tokens. He jacked his laptop into the right blocker, fingers moving without waste. Code scrolled SQL, then bash. Then a checksum utility that sang numbers across the screen. MD5 matches between mirror and archive. He said, but the production HRIS has different counts. Ria sipped and grimaced. So the live system has already been cleaned. Or optimized, Andre said. Or falsified, Naomi said. Plain? They looked at her, the word heavier than the room. The door opened. Selena slipped in with a stack of stickies, and her hair knotted like a deadline. She smelled like rain and printer toner. I scraped their public statements, she said. 7 mentions of inclusion in the last 4 press releases, 2 new photos on the careers page with the same 3 people rotated. She laid the shots side by side, tracing circles around a woman's scarf. A man's watch, same day. Different crops. Optics, Ria said. Optics are admissions, Naomi replied. She pulled the silver tape measure from her pocket and clicked the blade out 1 inch. 2. The sound filled the small room like a metal whisper. We'll measure against their own words. Andre ran his query again. Slower, adding a left join to an audit table the vendor had buried. There, he said, tapping. Delete the events. Logged by user. Props 2. Time window. 3 hours on a Saturday. Ria wrote the time on the whiteboard. Sat 14. 06 to 17. Shirar, who has that credential? Shared account. Andre said. But the IP block resolves to corporate. We'll need the VPN logs. Supuena later. Ria said. For now, document and backup. Naomi slid a second pouch forward. Bojdeva. HRIS auditable. Export hash. The printer chattered. She stuck the tape down and sealed the envelope with clear film. Her motions were slow enough to be deliberate, fast enough to be impatient. The phone on the wall buzzed with a call from reception. Naomi ignored it. It buzzed again with that sheepish insistence only office phones manage. Ria picked up, listened, covered the receiver. Martin, she mouthed. Naomi exhaled through her nose. Put him in the glass room. The glass room had the good chairs, and the bad view concrete and HVAC duct. A slice of bleak sky. Martin Hayes arrived in a navy suit, the color of polite threats. He set his leather brief down like a chess piece and didn't bother with hello. I saw the draft complaint, he said, and I'm asking you, as a partner and a friend, to stand down. Naomi stayed standing. The glass threw 2 versions of them back into the room. On what grounds? We are not a culture non-profit. He said, we're stewards of other people's money. If you nuke a $2 billion deal on a moral crusade, we're derelict. We're stewards of risk. Naomi said, culture is risk. Markets price performance, not feelings. He said, markets price leaks. She said, we found one, so fix it quietly. He said, softer now. Coaxing. Call Kincaid. Extract terms. Get the valuation discount we deserve. That's how adults play. Naomi watched his reflection. He wouldn't meet his own eyes. She could smell his cologne cedar and something sharp under it. She thought of how many rooms had used that smell to mask rot. "You're asking me to monetize misconduct," she said. "I'm asking you to stop setting the building on fire to prove there's smoke," he said, a bite breaking through the charm. "The LP committee meets Friday. They're nervous. If you keep this up, I pull their support. We wah." Ria's pen creaked in the next room. Even through glass, the sound carried. Naomi rolled the tape measure edge under her thumb until the metal pressed a half moon into the skin. "If you have to go, go," she said. He stared. "You'd blow up your own fund. I'd rebuild with whoever wants clean return," she said. "I won't book a win on someone else's bruises." His jaw moved as if he were chewing a word he didn't want to say. He picked up his brief, set it down again. "Last chance," he said. "Take it," Naomi said, and opened the door for him like a gracious host. He paused in the doorway. "I hope you like being right alone." "I never am," she said, but she said it to the carpet after he was gone. The quiet after he left felt heavier than his presence. Rejoined her, touched her sleeve. "You okay?" Naomi looked at the thin, red half-moon on her thumb and pressed it flat with her index finger until the sting receded. "We logged the conversation," she said. "Memo to file. Time, place, content." "Already did," Ria said. By midday, the war room looked lived in. Cables snaking, paper cups abandoned, the whiteboard a palimpsest of numbers. Andre discovered a second pattern. "Look." He pulled up a graph. "Performance reviews. Women and black employees have the same raw output metrics, but their culture fit scores trend lower. That's the gate." "Who wrote culture fit?" Naomi asked. "Old template," Andre said. "Signed by Kincaid twice. Co-signed by Hart." Ria frowned. "Co-signed. Or pre-filled?" Andre zoomed on tiny initials. "Co-signed. But look different pen pressure. Defraudat. I think she got looped in after the fact." "Gray," Naomi said. She didn't say ally yet. Selena pinned 3 more press clippings to the wall. The headlines loved the word meritocracy. "They're building a narrative," she said. "We need a counter without sounding like a sermon." "No adjectives," Ria said. "Just nouns. Numbers." Andra corrected. And for the first time all morning, Naomi saw the corner of his mouth lift. Her phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "We know what you're doing. It won't end well." No punctuation, a careful threat pretending to be clumsy. She screenshotted, saved to a folder labeled Nexum, threats, and didn't answer. "Break," she said. They stood in the kitchenette under the tinny rattle of an overworked vent. The fridge hummed, a sound that made the space feel more temporary than it was. Outside the narrow window, a delivery truck idled, rain beads trembling on its hood. Andre tore the top off a granola bar with the pain of a man who believed in real food. "Why do they always use culture fit?" he asked. "It's like saying you don't look like the furniture." "And pre-day, because it passes in daylight," Ria said, "like loitering laws." Selena stared at the spreadsheet on her phone. "We're going to get sued," she said, not afraid, just tired. Naomi set her cup down, the ceramic clicking against laminate. "We file first," she said, "and we file clean." That afternoon, they built the packet, a spine of exhibits, hashes that matched across mirror and archive. A narrative so thin it could barely be called one. Just facts, just times, just places. Conklin from compliance stopped by to bless the chain. He wore corduroy that rasped when he moved, and glasses that magnified his pupils. He checked seals, initialed tape, asked to see the right blocker logs. When he left, The room felt sanctified and ridiculous at once. "Who's taking delivery?" Ria asked. "I am," Naomi said. "I want the timestamp." "Courier," Selena said. "Feet," Naomi said. Dusk had started to bruise the sky when she stepped outside. Packet snug in a gray document bag tucked under her arm. The air tasted like pennies. Cars hissed on wet pavement. She walked 3 blocks to the federal building, past a florist closing her awning, past a bar where 2 suits laughed too loudly at something they'd regret. Inside, the guard asked for ID without looking up. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and paper government perfume. She placed the bag on the counter and watched the clerk scan it, label it, stamp it. "Received at 17:59, the clerk said. The stamp thumped the page, a small, satisfying violence. "Can I see it?" Naomi asked. The clerk slid the page to the glass. The ink was still wet, dark and modest. EEOC intake glowed in a font that never tried to be heroic. On her way out, Naomi paused by a window that reflected the city as a double exposure, her face laid over lights and rain. She took the tape measure out and eased the blade to 4 inches, then 6. The metal trembled, then held. She pressed the lock. A line, a fact, a choice. Outside, the delivery truck had gone. In its place, a young man leaned on a bicycle, phone in hand. He looked up, met her eyes, then looked away with the quick respect of someone who has learned to clock danger and leave it be. Back in the war room, Andre had pinned a new printout to the board, a small cluster of red dots on a black grid. "What's that?" Naomi asked. "Delete events by hour," he said. "See the cluster. Saturdays. After the cleaning crew signs out." "Ghost shift," Ria said. "Cover shift," Selena corrected. Almost a whisper, Naomi touched the corner of the printout with a fingertip, careful not to smudge. Her phone buzzed once more. This time it was Lydia. "We need to talk. Off-site. No phones." Naomi looked at the tape measure, at the board, at the sealed pouches like small coffins for lies. "Tomorrow," she said, "more to the room than the people in it. We start cutting." The diner on Cortlandt had chrome edges and a jukebox that only knew 3 moods: hopeful, lonely, and wrong. Naomi chose a booth by the window. The vinyl was cracked. The air smelled like hot griddle, lemon cleaner, and old coffee that wouldn't quit. Carter Lang slid in across from her, notepad already half open. He wore a thrift store blazer and the face of a man who liked facts more than friends. He set his phone screen down, a courtesy he rarely offered. "Your name's circulating," he said. "Good," Naomi said. "Not the way you want," he said. The waitress arrived with water and a menu she didn't expect Naomi to need. "Pancakes," she said, pencil poised. "Black coffee," Naomi said. "Same," Carter said. "And whatever looks like food." The waitress nodded like a confessor and left. Carter folded his hands on the table. "I can run with this," he said. "Source protection. Documents redacted. We set the narrative first." "No," Naomi said. He blinked like she had mispronounced a common word. "Why not?" "Because procedure wins," she said. "Media breathes, then sleeps. Evidence holds." He leaned back. The seat creaked. "Evidence also sits in sealed boxes while people get hurt." "Boxes open," she said, "with chains attached." He scratched something he didn't need to write. "You're a romantic." "I'm an auditor," she said. The coffee came hot and immediate, steam lifting in a column. Carter watched her blow across the surface. "Small, but it's easy. They'll smear you," he said. "Race, gender, ambition. They'll call you disruptive." "I am disruptive," she said. "They'll make it sound criminal," he said. She set the cup down. The ceramic made a soft, factual click. "Can you verify a VPN range?" she asked. corporate to HRIS. Saturday window. His eyes warmed. Sure, he said. You'll owe me a quote later. I'll owe you a footnote, she said. He laughed once, a dry sound that fit the room. Off the record, he said. You scared. Measured, she said. He studied her face for the seam that fear sometimes leaves. He found none and wrote that down instead. The waitress slid a plate in front of him. Eggs, toast, hash browns like a small hayfield. Naomi's coffee refilled itself. Outside, a bus took the corner too hard and sighed like a tired animal. Carter chewed, swallowed, spoke around the heat. I'll check the range, he said. If I find a back door, we lock it to a name. Thank you, Naomi said. Don't thank me yet, he said. They'll come for me too. They always do, she said. He tore the toast and built a small fort with the crusts. One more thing, he said. Your father? The tape. She touched the pocket out of instinct, metal against cloth. It ran a shop, she said. He taught me how not to lie to wood. That line writes itself, he said, smiling. It already did, she said. They parted in the doorway. He turned left into wind. She turned right into noise. The city leaned on them equally and moved on. She met Lydia that night in a park without cameras, the kind with benches that never dried out. The grass smelled alive. A dog barked and then forgot why. No phones, Lydia said, hands deep in her coat. They sweep, Naomi nodded. The moon had decided not to show. Streetlight took pity and made a thin, honest circle. I'm not a whistle, Lydia said. I'm not a saint. I didn't ask for either, Naomi said. I signed things, Lydia said. Some because I believed them, some because he needed the signature. I rationalized the ones that didn't fit. Rationalizing is a full-time job, Naomi said. Lydia laughed without humor. He's preparing a smear, she said. He hired a firm. They'll call your returns overhyped, your pipeline thin. They'll hint you sleep with sources. They'll say your anger is why you never married. Naomi watched a moth struggle around the light, tap-tapping glass. They recycle, she said. They'll use your father, Lydia said. There's a file. A banknote from 22 years ago, late by 3 days. Naomi's jaw moved once and stopped. Fine, she said. He told his assistant to leak your background to a blogger. Lydia said. They'll launder it. They know where to hang the laundry. Names, Naomi asked. Assistant. Jensen Kroll, Lydia said. Firm. Norcross Strategies. Blogger. A burner writing for them. What do you need? Naomi asked. A reason to stay, Lydia said. You already decided, Naomi said. Lydia looked at the playground, empty and slick. I keep thinking if I leave, I absolve myself. If I stay, I atone. Leaving is a press release, Naomi said. Staying is receipts. Lydia breathed in until her ribs objected. I'll send you 2 memos, she said. One on culture fit, one on deletion windows. I can't send the attachments yet. Send the headers, Naomi said. I'll subpoena the rest. My name will be on it, Lydia said. Uzakutu, Naomi said. Blind drop. But pick a handle you can live with. They stood in that cold pool of light until the moth surrendered and left. The wind found the back of Naomi's neck and made a shape of it. You don't hate him, Lydia said, surprised. I hate the math, Naomi said. He's just a coefficient. That almost sounds kind, Lydia said. It isn't, Naomi said. Lydia's hands came out of her coat. They were empty, but they looked used. I'll send them tonight, she said. Don't, Naomi said. Sleep. Send at 4. Lydia nodded as if the order meant more than logistics. She left without goodbye. Naomi watched the dark fill the space she had taken. A jogger's breath passed, white and efficient. A siren wrote a diagonal line somewhere too far to matter. Naomi took the tape measure out and listened to the blade leave home. 1 inch, 2, 3. She locked it at 4, enough to mark a cut. At Nexum, the carpet swallowed anger. Kincaid paced the long edge of his office, trailing a phone that earned its battery. The glass showed him 2 sizes larger than life. He approved the view. Jensen Kroll hovered with an iPad, and the anxious smile of people who live on tips. Talking point drafted. He said, "We'll position her as radical, unstable, a liability for any LP. Make it sound concerned." Kincaid said, "Civility plays." Understood. Jensen said. Kincaid stopped at the credenza, unstoppered a decanter, poured enough to sting. "Bring me a good story," he said. "Father, debt, anger, a thread anyone can pull. Bank note," Jensen said. 3 days late, got it from a freelance digger. "We'll spin hardship into resentment." Kincaid smiled. "Teeth too, even to be trusted. Use soft words," he said. "People believe cruelty when it whispers." "And Lang?" Jensen asked. "He's sniffing the VPN. Feed him something shiny," Kincaid said. "Then close the door before he sees the room." Jensen nodded, half bowed. Retreated. Kincaid drank and stared at his reflection until it agreed with him. He did not see Reggie outside the door. Posture casual, ears open, eyes memorizing. Reggie did not move. Someone had to be the camera. The next morning, Naomi took the elevator to the 32nd floor of a downtown tower, where Vischer and Moreland, outside counsel to Nexum's board, leased their clean light. A woman at reception offered water that tasted like apology and handed over a visitor badge with an inch of power. "Board ethics intake," Naomi said. "Conference B." The woman said, "Mr. Morrow will be in shortly." Naomi set her document bag on the table and unzipped it. Sealed push. Copies of hash logs. A list of witnesses with categories instead of names. She placed the silver tape on the folder, as if it could keep the paper from floating. Mr. Morrow arrived with a secretary and a tie that had never seen gravy. He sat, opened a fountain pen, clicked his jaw once. "Miss Ellison," he said, "what brings you to our humble house?" "A sealed submission," she said. "For the audit committee only, chain of custody attached. Scope limited but high risk." "Allegations?" he asked. "Ben hovering. Misrepresentation to investors," she said. "Retaliation against protected classes. Data deletion. Buyback manipulation." He did not pretend not to know the words. "Witness names, redacted until subpoenaed." She said, "Headers included. You realize the company may respond," he said. "You realize they may call your motives impure." "Motives are metaphors," she said. "I brought math." He tapped the pen against the legal pad once, twice. "We'll log receipt," he said. "I'd like a stamp." She said, "Today's date, time, your initials, and the words, 'for audit committee.'" End quote. He signaled to the secretary. She produced a stamp. The thunk was bureaucratic and satisfying. "Anything else?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You should advise your client to secure their deletion logs." "Why?" he said. "Because someone is about to lose them," she said. He almost smiled. "You have a gift for drama, Ms. Ellison. I prefer deadlines," she said. She left the conference room and stood for a moment in the marble lobby where sound traveled in elegant curves. Her reflection in the dark stone looked like a person halfway erased and redrawn. She closed the tape measure with her thumb. The blade slid home in a metal sigh. Outside, the day had gone brittle and bright. Carter texted a string of IP addresses and one sentence. "VPN range matches corporate. Saturday window confirmed." Naomi forwarded to Rhea and Andre, then deleted the thread. She moved through the city like a blade through cloth. Back at the office, the war room was mid-chaos, and fully alive. Ria stood at the whiteboard, writing EEOC, board, AG in a triangle and drawing arrows both ways. Andre had mapped the delete events onto a calendar and colored Saturdays in a red that meant human hand. Package landed, Naomi said. Board council stamp. Good, Ria said. Because Norcross just pitched a story to 3 blogs, the Yardstick Zealot. And food. Cute, Andres said. They chose a yardstick. Naomi smiled a millimeter. We own the inch, she said. Selena hovered at the door, phone screen clutched like a life raft. We have a problem, she said. Kincaid's assistant called. He wants to meet. Off record. Tonight. Ria frowned. No. Yes. Naomi said. We go. We record. We bring a witness. Who? Andra asked. Naomi looked past them to the hallway where Reggie's security jacket hung on a hook they didn't own. Someone who has already seen enough, she said. The room settled around the plan like metal cooling into a mold. She stepped into her office and closed the door. Quiet, blessed and temporary, pooled at her feet. She opened the drawer and lifted the tape measure, its weight, a familiar argument. She extended the blade to 8 inches this time. The metal quivered and kept its word. Somewhere below, a truck downshifted. Somewhere above, a printer warmed and cleared its throat. Naomi pressed the lock and let the line hold. Then she released it, listening to the small, neat sound of return. She looked at the list of names she would not say yet, and at the clock that refused to be generous. The day had chosen its shape. Her job was to measure it before it measured her. The server closet breathed like a sleeping animal, dry heat, a faint ozone tang, fans turning air into a constant low vowel. Andre crouched on the rubber mat with his laptop balanced on a milk crate, cable clipped to the right blocker, eyes gone febrile from console green. Run it again, Naomi said. He didn't argue. He typed. The checksum utility spilled numbers. MD5 for the export. E8B7B43 MD5 for the mirror. E8B7B43 MD5 for the final bundle from production HAR HRIS F1A2D999. Mismatch holds, he said. Third file's dirty. Ria knate beside him, blazer pooling at her elbows. She touched the sticker on the drive with one painted nail. Pouch triheris. Prod build. Chain of custody says. We copied this through the blocker at 09. Sirar, she said. You were the operator. I witnessed. Andra swallowed. I was the operator, he said, and didn't finish. Naomi watched the breath move under his hoodie. Say it. He let the laptop screen close an inch. The server fans filled the pause with their patient wheeze. I tried to clean the redundancy, he said. Just the extra lines. The duplicate delete markers. I thought it would make the pattern clearer. Ria stared. You touched the numbers. I backed them up first, he said. Every byte. But I curated the set. It was stupid. I know. I thought it'd help us tell the story. You killed it instead, Naomi said, voice level. She didn't raise her volume. She rarely needed to. If you touch the numbers, you kill the truth. And we die with it. Andre winced like the sentence had weight. I can fix it, he said quickly. I built a mirror off the mirror before I did anything. Cold copy. Off-site. I can restore. Where? Naomi asked. He pointed with his chin at a pelican case in the corner. Black plastic. 2 locks. A label in his neat block letters. Snails say. ATL cold. Naomi checked the locks. Read off the serials. Then handed the key to Ria. Read the seal. Seal 114 amperes. Unbroken. Ria said. Opening at 10:19 Eastern. Operator Baptiste. Witness Ellison. The thermal printer in Ria's bag spit a narrow tape. She stuck it to the log sheet, the adhesive bit, with a papery sigh. Andre opened the Pelican case. The odor of new plastic and silica gels sighed up. He lifted out a bare drive in an anti-static sleeve like a nurse lifting a newborn. "Right blocker ready," he said. "Mounting read only." Naomi leaned against the rack, forearm picking up heat from the metal. The server lights winked their insect language. She took out the tape measure and thumbed it open to 2 inches. She didn't need the distance. She needed the sound. Andre mounted the drive. The console chatter changed cadence. Numbers echoed themselves in a way that made sense again. He ran SHA 256 on the bundle and read the long string in a voice that steadied as it went. "Mirror matches cold," he said. "We can rebuild the broken set from this." Rhea exhaled with almost comical relief. "Document every step," she said, "even the heartbeat between them." Andre nodded and set to work. Code moved, minimalist and unforgiving. Naomi watched his hand. They were steady now. Shame had burned off into concentration. "Why'd you do it?" she asked quietly. Andre didn't stop typing. "Because I hate that story beats proof most days," he said. "I wanted the math to speak louder. I tried to turn it up." Naomi clicked the tape shut. The metal tongue slid home. "We don't amplify," she said. "We align. Let the line speak." A fan stuttered, caught itself, remembered its job. Upstairs, the war room had turned into a ruled mess. Post-its like confetti, wires like fines. The whiteboard stained with a ghost of earlier fights. Selena taped 2 press screenshots, side by side, circled the words meritocracy and civility, then drew a line to optics in all caps. "Norcross is seeding," she said. 2 blogs and a think piece farm. I counted 3 dog whistles, 1 bullhorn. Rhea set the Pelican case on the table like a trophy they hadn't wanted to win. "We fixed the chain," she said. "Andre's mirror saved it." Selena glanced at him with gratitude and something else. "You okay?" she asked. He shrugged. "I just made it back to 0. Naomi set a fresh log sheet on the table. "We're below 0 until the board's council locks the receipt with their initial," she said. "We're also on a clock." "What clock?" Selena asked. 48 hours, Naomi said. "Senator Wexler's staff is floating a procedural delay to the EEOC docket. If they score it, we lose our window. Markets open Monday at 9. Censure. We file a clean chain before that, or we spend 6 months answering questions instead of asking them." "Source?" Rhea asked. Naomi held up Lydia's message on a dumb phone she'd bought that morning from a store that also sold lottery tickets. 1 line, in a fixed-width font. "Wexler today. Dorian off-site. Delay card." Selena's eyebrow tilted. "He's lawyering the calendar. He's lawyering air," Rhea said. "We can beat that. Only if we run," Naomi said. She drew a triangle on the whiteboard. EEOC. At the top, board audit. Left, AG intake. Right. Arrows ran like highways. She wrote T47. Wusharar. In the corner, the numbers looked ruthless. "Conklin signs our chain," Rhea asked. "Conklin oversees," Naomi said. "Board's council stamps. Aga time stamps. EEOC logs receipt. We make 3 doors so they can't all close." Andre raised a hand, as if asking permission to breathe. "Quick question," he said. "Did we just say AG out loud?" "Yes," Rhea said. "God help us." They moved. Not friends he had targeted. Naomi built the packet again, this time with the restored bundle and the hash table printed in a font so ugly it made you trust it. Rhea drafted a 2-paragraph cover that read like weather, dates, winds, fronts. Andre wrote a technical appendix with footnotes nobody would read and everybody would fear. "Courier?" Selena asked. "No." Naomi said. Us. Who takes which? Rhea asked. Rhea and I take AG. Naomi said. Andre and Selena take board council. Conklin meets us at EEOC to bless the seals. We keep texts short. We keep heads down. We keep moving. Andre snapped his laptop shut. The sound felt like a verdict. Elsewhere, Dorian Kincaid buttoned a suit jacket that had never met rain and slid into the back of a car that had more leather than some churches. Jensen Kroll held the door like a man who knew doors. The driver took Peachtree South without asking. Wexler's restaurant was one of those rooms that thought a dimmer switch could buy discretion. The host used last names like Velvet. A private booth swallowed them. Ice clinked. Plates appeared and performed. Senator Wexler shook Kincaid's hand with public warmth. He had a face designed to forget itself. Dorian, he said, you look like money. Trying to stay that way, Kincaid said, smiling like he paid taxes as a hobby. Wexler's aide, a woman with an expression like a locked drawer, placed a folder on the table. EEOC calendars, she said. There's always flex. Flex equals time. Kincaid said, time equalizes narratives. Also allows abuse to metastasize, the aide said, without heat. Wexler's mouth said a joke while his eyes said no. We're talking about docket management, he said, not theology. Kincaid sipped something that cost too much to be liquid. What does a flex look like? He asked. A request for clarifying data, the aide said. A courtesy hold. A procedural regroup. Nobody loses face. Everybody cites thoroughness. That buys us a week. Wexler said. Maybe 2. I need 48 hours. Kincaid said. Then the market will do the rest. Wexler lifted a corner of the folder, as if to check whether the paper inside had changed while he wasn't watching. You know I can't be seen touching this, he said. You won't be, Kincaid said. You'll be seen dining with an old friend. Wexler smiled a smile that didn't get any exercise. I have many, he said. Jensen caught the waitress's eye and ordered something Naomi wouldn't have recognized as food. His phone buzzed twice in his pocket with the rhythm of a man trying not to sweat. At the bar, Reggie stood in a suit. He wore like a borrowed skin. He held a glass of water and the slow breath of a person learning to be furniture. The mirror behind the bottles threw back Wexler's profile. Kincaid's teeth, Jensen's nervous jaw. Reggie never moved. The city needed someone to remember. The Attorney General's intake desk rose like a high counter in a post office that believed in law. The clerk had a stamp that could bruise, and a gaze that said, try me. Naomi slid the gray document bag under the glass. Filing, she said. Exhibits A through H. Chain of custody attached. Rhea handed over the cover letter and the log. We need a timestamp and a receipt number, she said. We'll wait. The clerk read, then read again. Then eyed the tape seals like they were dogged. This is thorough, she said. Understatement is a craft, Rhea said. The stamp thudded. Ink bled authority. Received 15. Sushiyi. AG intake. Initials that would matter someday if the world stayed sane. Naomi thanked her with the economy of a person who didn't believe in luck. They stepped back into a hallway that smelled like old paper and ambition. The fluorescent lights buzzed with the steadiness of a threat. Next, Naomi said, they split like a blade splitting a knot. Rhea peeled off to call Conklin. Naomi texted Andre. Board council now. ETA 20. 3 dots appeared. Then, on our way, Norcross in the lobby sniffing. She typed, ignore, smile, never blink. Outside, rain stitched lines between buildings. The traffic made its bored animal sound. Naomi walked fast enough to be a problem, and slowed just before she became one. At Vishar, Moorland, the reception water tasted less like apology and more like smug. Andre and Selena waited with a blue folder and faces that had learned to hold still. "Counsel will see you," the assistant said, a phrase that always made time move strangely. Mr. Morrow appeared like a courteous storm. He signed an acknowledgment, pressed their packet with his palm as if swearing an oath. "For the audit committee," he said. His secretary stamped it like someone ending a small war. "Please secure your deletion logs," Selena said before Naomi had to. "The window you care about is Saturdays after the cleaners go home." Morrow's pen stopped midway through a note. He looked up, actually interested. "Duly noted," he said. "This is now in the committee's custody." They exhaled in unison and left without looking around. People liked to pretend glass was invisible. It wasn't. The building watched them. Back at the EEOC, Conklin waited with his corduroy and his ritual. He initialed seals, measured the widths of signatures with an absurd little ruler, and declared the chain unbroken in a voice you'd trust with a parachute. The intake officer logged their packet. The clock over the door ticked in loud disrespect of everything it had witnessed. Naomi looked up at it like a boxer glancing at a bell she could almost hear. "Arshalouk," 18 hummed in her head like a second heartbeat. "You good," Rhea said. "Good is a feeling," Naomi said. "We have facts." "Humor me," Rhea said. Naomi let her shoulders drop one notch. "We're inside the window," she said. "Barely." Her phone buzzed with Lydia's number lighting the cheap screen. "Delay request file. Might stick. Hurry." Then another from Carter. "VPN range confirmed. Saturday IP belongs to operations. Conference room port 4. Then a third from an unknown. "Stop or bleed." Naomi put the phone face down on the counter. "Last door," she said. "Then we go dark." Night gulped the city in one motion. The war room mapped itself in pools of lamplight. The coffee burned toward usefulness. Andre printed a final JA 256 table and pinned it crooked. Selena stacked copies into boxes that made the table look strong. 48 hours from when they file the delay, Rhea said. "We're at 23 and change." "Markets do what markets do." Naomi stood at the window, where the rain made lines and the lines made sense. She pulled the tape measure and eased the blade out 1 inch for Wexler, 1 for Kincaid, 1 for Norcross, 1 for the ghost shift, 1 for the blog that thought adjectives could move stock, 1 for the guard who stood still, 1 for her father's shop. She stopped at 7 and held. The office went quiet in that way that makes a person hear their own blood. The HVAC clicked. A page settled. "Tomorrow," she said, "we make them choose." "Between what?" Andre asked. "Truth and comfort," she said. "They can't have both." She released the lock. The blade slid home with a clean, closing sound that felt like a line finding itself again. Outside, lightning fingered the far sky without remembering how to thunder. Inside, the clock on the wall spoke in seconds. They listened. The hearing room had the clean brightness of a dentist's dream: white walls, muted seal, microphones like little black eyes. The air carried copier heat and the puckered smell of rubber mats. Naomi chose the end of the council table, where the angle gave her both the panel and the door. Rhea spread the exhibits with surgeon calm. Tabs flashed colors like a quiet flag. Andre stacked the hash tables in 2 sets, 1 to breathe, 1 to bleed if needed. Conklin sat 3 chairs back, corduroy whispering, ruler peeking from his pocket like an old habit. The panel entered without ceremony. 3 of them, a woman with gray at her temples, a man whose suit didn't quite fit, another with a pen he wanted the world to see. Nameplates clicked into place. Docket 2447. The clerk said, "Intake with evidentiary proffer." Naomi's phone stayed off. The tape measure lay in her bag, cool against leather, a private weight. She counted breaths until they made a line. The chairwoman nodded. "Ms. Ellison." Rhea rose. Counsel for Ellison Capital, she said. We present exhibits A through H with chain of custody. Technical proffer by Mr. Baptiste. The clerk swore them in. The oath tasted like metal. Naomi felt it settle on her tongue. Andre began with the low hum of someone who likes to be exact. We obtained HRIS exports via read-only mirror. He said, checksums. MD5 and SHA-2, 5-6. Recorded contemporaneously. Audit table shows delete events clustered on Saturdays. Credentials labeled Props 2. VPN assignment maps to conference room port 4. He slid the charts across. The paper rasped. The panel leaned in, even the pen man. Conklin produced his ruler, measured a signature as if the length meant something because here it did. Exhibit C. Rhea said, placing the printout like a playing card. Deletion window marked 14:06-17. Sir. Exhibit D. Press statements asserting inclusion metrics inconsistent with internal logs. Calm, not coy. We request investigative subpoena for VPN logs and camera coverage. The chairwoman lifted Exhibit C. You're asserting intentional tampering, she said. We're asserting the numbers, Andre said. Intent belongs to your findings. A murmur from the back row. Salt and pepper heads. Tablets balanced on knees. The room's HVAC chose that moment to sigh. Long and bored. Naomi let her shoulders drop one notch. The line held opposite them. Nexum's counsel arranged a chessboard of smooth objects. Pens, a tiny bottled water, a legal pad too clean. Kincaid sat at their edge, a navy suit like moving shadow, face set to neutral. Jensen Kroll watched everyone and applauded no one. The chairwoman nodded again. Mr. Kincaid. His lawyer rose. Mr. Coker, counsel for Nexum, he said, voice with a vellum finish. We welcome scrutiny. We deny impropriety. Our HRIS vendor sometimes runs deduplication on weekends. The appearance of deletion may be artifact. Artifact usually leaves prints, the penman said. He tapped Exhibit C. His pen gleamed like a small dagger. We'll provide logs as requested, Coker said smoothly. And context. The chairwoman turned to Naomi. Any witness statement at this stage? Naomi stood. The carpet ate sound. Only to clarify exposure, she said. We began diligence for a potential investment. Discrepancies met thresholds. We pursued procedure. She kept it bone plain. We are not enemies. We are measuring risk. Thank you, the chairwoman said, meaning it. For a moment, the room righted itself. Light fell evenly across faces. Naomi felt the false calm of a deck that stops listing. Her pulse slowed. A tiny kindness. The panel recessed for 20 minutes. People rose and pretended they hadn't been sitting. Naomi stayed put. She opened the bag an inch and touched the tape measure. The way some people reach for a charm, the metal was honest. Across the aisle, Kincaid watched the door instead of her, as if exits were prayers. Rhea leaned close. So far, so clean, she whispered. Clean attracts dirt. Naomi said. They didn't smile. The hallway smelled like coffee brewed too long and plastic plants washed too seldom. Andre checked his phone. Carter had texted range holds and a photo of a router label so ordinary it felt like proof. Conklin traced a finger down the log and wrote the time with his narrow penmanship. Recess 11. Susanne. Reggie leaned against a wall, tie crooked just enough to look like a disguise. He nodded once, the kind of nod people use when words might get taken. You didn't have to come, Naomi said. I did, he said. Cameras forget. A bailiff called time. The door closed the hallway out. They reconvened with the weight of rooms where decisions bake. The chairwoman lifted her water, sipped, set it down in the exact ring it had made earlier. "Counsel," she said to Coker, "you indicated logs." Coker smiled like a winter sky. "We also have a forensic rebuttal," he said, "on independent examiner reviewed Ellison's files. He found timestamp irregularities, specifically modifications inconsistent with contemporaneous capture." Ria's eyes flicked to Naomi, a flash of question, then stone. Andre's fingers tightened on the table's edge until the knuckles went bloodless. "Define irregular," the penman said. "Koker gestuurd." A man in a suit, the color of canned soup, stepped forward with a binder that had learned the gym. "Dr. Halden," Coker said, "certified examiner. He found, for instance, metadata fields with UTC offsets inconsistent with Atlanta zone capture, embedded creation dates that moved, the chairwoman repeated, suggesting alteration. Holden said. Ria kept her voice inside its lane. "Chain of custody, please," she said. "When? How? By whom? Using what tool?" Coker spread his hands. "We were given copies by an anonymous source." "Then your chain is—" "What?" the penman asked. "Dry. A notion. Anonymous sources sometimes protect truth," Coker said. "Sometimes they hide knives," the chairwoman said. Naomi could feel the air change temperature along her forearm. She heard a sound and realized it was only paper settling somewhere behind them. Silence went heavy like wet cloth. Ria stood. "We object to the inclusion of unauthenticated materials," she said. "Our chain includes write blocker logs, sealed push, hash values recorded at origin. We request exclusion or, failing that, immediate opportunity to verify the so-called anomalies." The chairwoman looked at Halden. "Can you produce the media you examined?" "Not without exposing my source," he said. "Then your report is a pamphlet," the penman said. Coker's smile lost a tooth. "We have screenshots," he said. "Photographs of ghosts." Ria said. "Counsel," the chairwoman said. "A warning with a human center." She turned to Naomi. "Ms. Ellison, were your materials ever out of your custody prior to filing?" "No," Naomi said. "We logged every opening. If Nexum has copies, they came from theft, not release." Coker feigned wounded surprise. "Inflammatory. Predictable," Ria said, too soft to scold. The chairwoman pressed her fingers together in the shape of a small roof. "We'll reserve on the rebuttal," she said. "We will review the admissible proffer and decide on subpoenas." The gavel didn't drop. It wasn't that kind of room, but the decision had edges. The feeling in Naomi's chest shifted from held breath to held ground. Not victory, not yet, but a place to stand. Kincaid's jaw clicked. Jensen studied his own hands like they had begun telling stories. In the back, Reggie's eyes met Naomi's for a fraction solid. Ordinary. An anchor. They recessed again. This time, Naomi rose. The hallway moved around her like water around a piling. Ria touched her elbow. "We can beat it," she said. "We have to," Naomi said. They reached the stairs. Noise from below climbed to meet them. The hollow drum of shoes. Voices, like tires in rain. Andra breathed out. Then, in, the rhythm of a man recalibrating. Selena stood at the bottom step. Phone clamped in her fist. She looked smaller than she had yesterday. Her hair held the shape of running fingers. "Are you okay?" Naomi asked. Already knowing she wasn't, Selena's mouth opened. Closed. Opened. "They had my brother," she said. "Not like that. Not. They had his loan. They could call it. He'd lose the truck. The contract. Everything." Ria went still. "Who?" "Norcross," Selena said. "They found him. They're good at finding." "What did they ask you for?" Naomi asked. The words were slow, deliberate, stacked like bricks. A copy, Selena said. From the draft packet, they said it wouldn't matter. Just a look. They said they already had it. I thought if it's the same. Her voice thinned. I sent it from a burner, Halden called later. He said they'd found errors. He sounded almost kind. Andre leaned against the wall. It was either that or sit down on the steps like a child. Selena, he said, why didn't you? Because I was ashamed, she said. Because I told myself I was protecting family. Because I thought you would think I'm weak. Naomi felt something old move under her ribs, a shift like settling earth. She inhaled and remembered the tasting metal of the oath. Look at me, she said. Selena did. Her eyes held that beaten shimmer, the one that appears when people try to fix a wound by pretending it isn't there. We fix the chain, Naomi said. We clean the leak. We protect your brother. And then we set a boundary. In that order, I made you vulnerable, Selena said. I made the numbers dirty. No, Naomi said. You made us human. The numbers were always clean. People were the hazard. People around them passed with the polite blindness of a building that hears everything and registers nothing. Somewhere, a door banged and apologized to no one. Ria wrote a note on the corner of her legal pad. Motion to exclude defense report. Circle. Underline. We'll move on authenticity, she said. We'll demand source media. They'll refuse. It falls away. They don't need to win, Andre said. They need doubt. Then we give them boredom instead. Naomi said, procedural boredom. The slow death. Selena wiped at her face with a knuckle, efficient and embarrassed. I'm sorry, she said. I will resign if you will not, Naomi said. You will sit with me while we write the notice to Norcross. You will sign it. You will CC their general counsel, and you will call your brother while I listen, and you will tell him to change banks. Selena blinked as if given oxygen. She nodded. Hard. They re-entered the hearing room not as clean as they had left it. Clean was never the job anyway. The clerk called them to order. The panel resumed faces calibrated to bureau neutral. Coker smoothed his tie, which did not need it. The chairwoman spoke. We have the proffer. We have requests for process. We will issue a letter by close of business. Ria thanked her. Conklin initialed something that may have been air. Andre stacked the tables again with the reverence of someone returning tools. Naomi put the tape measure back in her bag and zipped the leather with a sound she could pretend meant closure. Outside, sun laid hard rectangles on the sidewalk, bright enough to sting. Carter waited with his hands in his pockets, posture that delicate mix of readiness and restraint. Well? He asked. Not no, Naomi said. Good enough for noon, he said. Reggie approached, tea already loosened, a jacket over shoulder like a man leaving a different life. They filmed your face when they said irregular, he said. Not your files. They always film the face, Naomi said. He looked like he wanted to say more and couldn't find the room. You need anything. I'm in the book, he said, and left without looking back. Carter fell in step. Lunch, he offered. Later, Naomi said. I have to write a letter. Make it mean, he said. Make it precise, she said. They peeled off him into the rumor of news, her into the sullen efficiency of the city at midday. The air had a gloss of heat now. Tires hissed. Lights changed. No one watched the sky. In the office, Ria drafted the motion to exclude Halden's phantom report. Conklin called someone who owed him a favor. Andre built an affidavit on the cold mirror and its hash lineage. Words so dull they shone true. Selena sat beside Naomi, typing her name again and again, until the letters stopped looking like a foreign language. Naomi wrote to Norcross, your receipt of unauthorized copies evidences theft and renders your forensic work inadmissible. Preserve all media, headers, and devices. Do not destroy. Spoliation notice attached. She read it once, twice. She didn't add adjectives. The afternoon lengthened like a rubber band. The clock found newer ways to be smug. At 4:12 p.m., the panel's email arrived. Letter to parties. Requests granted. Subpoena is forthcoming. Retaliation allegations to preliminary inquiry. False victory has manners. It knocks. Ria exhaled a laugh that sounded like a bruise. We live, she said. For now, Andres said. Naomi stood, crossed to the window, watched late light strike the wet curb so it looked like a line freshly drawn. She reached for the tape measure, pulled the blade to 5 inches. Then 6. She listened to the barely audible tremor just before lock. The metal held because it was designed to. Tomorrow, she said, not turning. We pay for it. What? Selena asked, voice small but steadier. The win, Naomi said. They never let you keep it for free. She released the lock. The blade slid home with a clean, final whisper that wasn't final at all. Outside, a bus sighed at the stop and then, having remembered itself, moved on. The letter from the panel hit at 9:07 a.m. Exact and impersonal. Preliminary inquiry opened. Subpoenas drafting. Scheduling to follow. A second email landed 23 minutes later. All warmth removed. Request to postpone pending further clarifications. Procedural language with a pulse you could almost hear. Ria read both twice. Delay request filed, she said. No ruling yet. Andre stared at the clock. Markets open in 23. Naomi set her phone face down and felt the weight of the day settle into her shoulders. The office had that Monday smell, hot dust in vents, toner warming, coffee that didn't like anyone. Her inbox dinged again. LP advisory, emergency call, 10 a.m. The subject line felt like a cough hidden behind a hand. Put it on speaker, she said. The conference phone threw their voices into the room. As if summoning ghosts, 3 investors joined in, all different timbers of worry. Martin Hayes' voice came last, precise as a blade. You've put us in a difficult position, he said. We disclosed risk. Naomi said, risk is not scandal. He said, you made it scandal. Ria tapped a pen against a legal pad. Once, twice. The scandal existed, she said softly. We measured it. An LP cleared his throat. Press is ugly, he said. We're fielding call. Norcross ceded it. Naomi said, we've served a spoliation notice, which reads like theater to anyone on the outside. Martin said, perception will kill us before the facts save us. Naomi leaned toward the mic. We will outlast the theater. Some of us can't, Martin said. I'm tendering my resignation. Effective tonight. Silence arranged itself around the sentence. Andre muttered something that might have been a prayer or a curse. Selena didn't speak at all. An LP exhaled. We will need to reconsider our commitment, he said. Half now, half pending resolution. Half is better than 0, Ria said. Practical against pain. Half feels like punishment, Andre said. Too loud for a phone call, and exactly right for a room. Naomi's hand found the edge of the table. The wood was cool, smooth, indifferent. Do what you think is prudent, she said. We'll keep the file clean. Godspeed, one LP said and meant it. The line died. The room kept the echo for a moment, and then let it go. Naomi stood. We work, she said. We don't flinch. Ria gathered the papers that had nothing to do with dignity and everything to do with survival. Andre opened the hash tables like scripture. Selena watched her phone and tried not to. It buzzed again. She flinched. My brother switched banks, she said. He's safe. Good, Naomi said. Now you switch your. Selena nodded and put her phone in a drawer as if burying something that would not die. By noon, the blog posts had multiplied. The yardstick zealot became the angry auditor, became The performance mirage. Screens carried headlines like bruise. Carter texted a single line. They're buying volume, not truth. Naomi replied, volume only works on the deaf. He sent back a period, which, in his language, meant, yes, but watch your flanks. Conklin arrived with a cardboard box and old-school grim. Backup stamps. He said, I don't like the delay request. They'll drape it as thoroughness. Rhea looked up from a calendar. We push on board council, she said, and the AG, 2 doors still unlocked. Board council at 3, Conklin said. Audit committee wants updates. Bring the chain, Naomi said. Bring the ugly font. Andre sorted prints with a reverence usually reserved for photographs of the dead. He slid one toward Naomi. Buyback orders, he said. Look at the timing. The minute a blog hits, they begin repurchasing. Automated, maybe. But the window is too tight. That's overreach, Rhea said. Or arrogance. Same route. Andre said. Selena stood. I'll draft a footnote. She said. Short. Dry. Naomi watched her move and felt both relief and the ache that comes from standing too long with your spine straight. Her phone vibrated against the table. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. The transcript arrived broken and low. You don't know what doors you are opening. Doors swing both ways. The words wore threat like an old suit. She deleted it and felt nothing heroic. At 2:41 p.m., the EEOC clerk's email landed. Delay granted 48 hours for supplemental submissions. It was a sentence written to be harmless and sharpened by fact. Andre closed his eyes. They bought time. Then we buy truth, Rhea said. Naomi's chest tightened in that slow, deliberate way the body uses to call you back. She stepped into the hall and walked to the service stairwell, where the building breath had a different smell. Concrete. Metal. The ghost of cut wood in the handrail. She took the tape measure out, stared at it, closed her hand around it until the metal bit her palm. The pain was clean. It didn't fix anything. Her phone lit again. Martin. She answered because dignity is not the same as grudge. Say it, she said. I'm not your enemy, he said. You're not my friend either, she said. I'm trying to keep the ship afloat, he said. You're drilling holes to let out the water. She laughed once and hated that she did. You don't trust the hull, she said. I don't trust the captain. Captain gets replaced, he said. Hull takes years. Then start now, she said. He sighed. That expensive. Weary sound men deploy when they want to be forgiven. We're done, he said. I'll send paperwork. Send it to Rhea, she said, and ended the call before memory could make anything worse. When she returned, the war room had a new stillness. Selena's chair was empty. Her bag was gone. Her drawer sat open and honest. Andre looked up, alarm already like light in his eyes. She went to the bathroom. He offered, as if that could be true. They waited 5 minutes. 10. Rhea texted. No dots appear. Check her desk, Naomi said. Andre glanced at the screensaver. An ocean. Indifferent. He touched the trackpad. Nothing budged. The login demanded a password it already knew. Rhea called security. A guard with a clipboard and a face like weather checked the log. She left at 2. Wushaba, he said. Alone. No one followed. Camera, Naomi asked. Old on that floor, he said. Fuzzy at best. Naomi thanked him and stood very still until the stillness shaped itself into something she could breathe through. She'll call, she said. For them, not herself. Rhea nodded once. Lavierly. Rational. Kind. Andre nodded like a person who could only see numbers that refused to sum. Naomi packed the board packet with hands that did not shake. Conklin picked up the box like it was a child. Somehow he made it affectionate. 3 o'clock. He said, Let's go, Naomi said. Board council received them in Conference B with chairs that sighed and a table that wanted to be touched. Mr. Morrow had his fountain pen out, a small machine with a deep thirst. "We've reviewed your submission," he said. "The audit committee appreciates thoroughness." "Delay?" Rhea asked. "Regrettable," Morrow said, "but not fatal." Naomi slid the supplemental page across Andre's observed pattern between public relations and buyback orders. "There's a timing correlation," she said. "You'll want to test causation." Morrow's eyebrows lifted a fraction. "You're suggesting manipulation," he said. "I'm suggesting you look," she said, "and secure deletion logs now. Saturdays." He made a note that would live in the minutes and in memory. "The committee will meet tomorrow, Am," he said. "May we call you?" "Yes," Naomi said. "At any time." The secretary stamped their receipt. The thunk felt steadier than the morning's. Perhaps that was superstition. Perhaps not. Outside, the sky had cleared in the tired way. A city clears gray becomes less gray, until someone calls it blue. On the sidewalk, Naomi's phone vibrated against her hip. A text from a number she knew. "I'm sorry. Needed air. Don't look for me tonight." Naomi read it twice. She didn't forward it. She didn't file it. She put the phone away like a secret that didn't know what it wanted to be. Evening came with the honest noises, elevators sighing toward rest, streetlights ticking awake, the low chatter of a building shedding people. Rhea left to draft filings from home. Conklin departed with the ritual of a man promising return. Andra stayed, eyes milked by screens, fingers finding their old certainty. Naomi drove without music, past a car wash asleep, past a pawn shop that glowed like a confession, past a small park where a child's shoe hung by its lace from a fence like a question no one had time to answer. She turned onto a street that remembered her, and stopped at a storefront, with letters so faded they were more memory than paint. Ellison measure. Frame. The bell over the door didn't ring. It had rung for her father. It kept its silence for her. Dust smelled like honesty. The air had the cool of rooms that store time. She clicked on a lamp. The cone of light found a workbench scarred with straight lines and stubbornness. Tools lay where he'd left them on the last good day square. All. Pencil sharpened to a knife. The tape measure was missing only because it lived in her pocket now. The absence felt like a presence. She traced a groove with her finger. Grain raised like goose flesh. She could hear him humming. Something with no melody, only rhythm. She could see his hands, the way he guided wood to meet wood without argument. At the back, a door stuck against humidity. She leaned a shoulder to it and pressed. It opened on a shed that had won its fights with weather, until it couldn't. The hinge was orange with bloom. Screws showed threaded rust. When she moved the door, it complained with a long, wounded sound. She unscrewed the hinge with a driver that remembered her hand. The metal resisted, then yielded, then came away whole. She wiped it with a rag until a patch of dull silver showed through like a promise of how things used to be. She held the hinge in her palm. It had weight and useless beauty, a thing that allowed motion while keeping structure true, a servant that decided whether a door would open or hold. She understood why her father had loved them. "Doors swing," she said to the empty shop, her voice small and fine, "but they hold the frame." She slipped the hinge into her bag beside the tape measure. The way you pair a word with its answer, a hinge needed a line needed a hinge. The idea felt like comfort disguised as thought. Her phone buzzed once in the quiet Lydia, bored, pushing for internal review. "Kincaid is angry. Be ready." Naomi typed, "I'm ready." She didn't ask about Selena. Lydia didn't offer. Their silence had purpose, not malice. She switched off the lamp and let the darkness rewrite the room. The bell still didn't ring. Outside, air smelled like a storm that might change its mind. She drove back through a city that had learned to wear fatigue like fashion. Andre had fallen asleep against his chair, the way young men do when the body rebels, but refuses to surrender. Naomi covered him with her jacket. He shifted but didn't wake. On her desk, she set the hinge beside the tape. The two objects regarded each other with the quiet intimacy of tools, each aware of the other's work. She extended the tape to 3 inches, not for measure but for sound. Then she folded it back and listened to the clean, closing whisper. Her computer chimed with a new message. EEOC clerk. Subpoenas issued tomorrow, 09. Ling Ling. Board counsel copied. The sentence was dry. The effect was not. She allowed herself one long breath that reached all the way down. Then her phone vibrated again. Not a text. A voicemail from a number she once loved. She let it play in the room because the room would not tell. Naomi, Martin said, voice thrown far by distance and decision. I'm sorry. I should have stood. Maybe I still will. But not now. He swallowed in her ear. She could see the vein on his temple, the one that always jumped when he lied to himself. Be careful, he said. He's meaner scared. She deleted it without saving. Not because he didn't deserve a drawer in her memory, but because some drawers should stay empty. She looked at the hinge again. It did not promise victory. It promised function. Things would open. Things would close. The work would be in deciding when. She wrote 3 lines on a sticky and stuck it to her monitor. Hinge, repair. Line, standard, price. Paid. Then she turned off the lamp and let the room belong to night and fans and the soft, living breath of machines. The hinge caught a filament of streetlight and held it like a small, stubborn star. Morning hit like a cold cloth. The war room wore last night's fatigue, coffee, ghosts, paper towers, monitors pulsing steady blue. Naomi set the hinge on the desk beside the tape. 2 small truths keeping each other honest. Her cheap phone pinged once. Drop awake. Same place. Dusk. No signature. Lydia's rhythm. Bored chatter. Rhea asked, stepping in with a to-go cup and eyes that had negotiated sleep. Lydia says they meet early. Naomi said. Kincaid's angry. The productive kind. Andre rubbed his face, hair in revolt. I mapped the buyback bursts to press timestamps. He said, correlation stands. We need the raw OMS export. Board counsel can compel, Rhea said. If Lydia pushes, Naomi slid the hinge into her bag, felt its weight settle like intention. She will, she said. Or she won't, and we move anyway. At Nexum, the top floor smelled like lemon and fear. Lydia Hart stopped outside Kincaid's office, hand on the brass handle, the metal cool and smug. She went in without knocking. He stood at the windows, arms folded, city framed behind him like a witness that never testified. He hoped you'd come, he said. We need to align. On what? Lydia asked. Narrative or numbers? Both, he said. But start with narrative. She sat. He didn't. Audit committees engaged, she said. They want deletion logs and OMS records. Delay buys time, he said. Time buys narrative. The delay expires tomorrow, she said. The narrative is eating itself. He turned, smile clean as glass. I can help you, he said. I can make you. She kept her face polite. Make me what? Board, he said. Permanent. Compensation generous. Charter revision to give you teeth. You'll shepherd culture. You'll be the face of reform. For staying quiet, she asked. For staying strategic, he said. Public contrition, private loyalty. She let a small breath fall out of her like an old coin. There's a memo, she said. Your signature on culture fit. A template for docking scores. Legacy, he said quickly. Pre-Lydia. I don't write templates. You enforce them, she said. His jaw clicked. You applied them. She let the hit land. Not after last fall, she said. Not after Fielding. Fielding failed. He said. Fielding shipped 2 product, she said. He didn't golf. That's petty, he said. That's pattern, she said. He moved closer, voice lowering. Lydia, I'm trying to protect this company, he said. And you're trying to protect yourself in a company-shaped container, she said. There's a difference. He stared long enough to be cruel, and then smiled like nothing had happened. Board seat still stands, he said. Take it. It's yours. She rose. If I do, she said, it will be because the committee asked, not because you offered. You'll thank me, he said. Not today, she said. She left his office with her pulse, a hammer. In the women's room, she stood in a stall and counted tiles until the count made shape. Then she took a photo of the Culture Fit memo header, cropped tight on the code and date. She opened the deletion window thread, screenshotted the auto-reply with the Saturday hours stacked like red flags. She compressed both into a passworded zip, named it Blue Hin Zip, and wrote the password on a post-it she tore in half. H1NGE. Half would go in the drop, half she'd memorize. She flushed the toilet for cover and left. Dusk came early and smelled like after-rain metal. The drop spot was a book exchange box painted robin's egg blue, its plexi door webbed with scratches. Naomi parked 2 blocks away and walked with a tote bag that looked like groceries. A jogger passed, headphones leaking a metronome. Somewhere, a bicycle clicked. Lydia arrived in a baseball cap and a jacket that belonged to someone younger. She didn't look at Naomi. Naomi didn't look at her. They both looked at the little blue door as if it might speak. A child ran past and smacked the box with a palm. The sound was small and unexpectedly human. When he disappeared, Lydia slid a used paperback inside. Naomi opened the door, a crack, removed a different paperback, closed it again. Their hands never touched. Naomi walked on, turned the corner, entered a parking garage that hummed like a throat. In the stairwell's concrete echo, she opened the paperback's front cover, just a book. Back cover, just a blur of blurbs. Inside spine duct tape. She peeled it. The zip fell into her hand like a guilty coin, black and tight. She tucked it under her sweater and sat in her car with the doors locked and the lights off. The hinge in her bag knocked softly when she moved. She breathed until her ribs agreed. Back at the office, Andre set up an air-gapped laptop. Rhea stood over his shoulder because that's what guardians do. Zip, Naomi said, laying it down. Password. Hinge without the vowels. Andre typed. Careful. The zip opened to 2 PDFs and a text file of mail headers. He hashed them, read the long strings aloud, wrote them on the log like prayers with numbers. Memo header, Rhea said, squinting. Template code. CF Diasinwevi. Date. Owner. HRD. Sign off. DK. Delete window auto reply. Andre said. Subject. Saturday optimization window. Sender. InfraOps. CC. HR Ops. Timestamp. 1402. Secure headers. Rhea said. Will subpoena bodies. Chain. Naomi said. Read in. Recorder off the network. Screenshots to thermal. Conklin arrived on the squeak of corduroy and the smell of paper. He initialed the log, inspected the air gap, nodded like a doctor checking a pulse. Board council at 8, he said. Bring these, not the originals. Naomi touched the hinge, then left it behind. It didn't need the boardroom glow. It needed her. The board met in a room that used wood to pretend softness. Mr. Morrow stood at the head with his polite pen and his less polite eyes. Lydia sat 3 seats down, still, centered, carrying her decision like a weight she had chosen. Naomi spoke 4 sentences. Ria added 2. Andre said 1 about hashes. Mr. Morrow asked 6 questions, all about chain. A director with a watch too big for his wrist asked 1 about culture fit, his tone threaded with disbelief. He didn't think he was broadcasting. Lydia slid her copy of the memo header across the table. We adopted this template 2 summers ago, she said. We kept it until last fall. Scores were adjusted. We lost people. Attrition. The big watch director said, talent. She said, context. The chair asked, KPI compliance. Lydia said, she didn't look at Kincaid when she spoke. That was its own answer. Kincaid smiled at the ceiling, and then at his hands. Templates are guidance, he said. Managers decide. We trust managers. Then why sign off? Mr. Morrow asked, too gentle to be harmless. To standardize expectations, Kincaid said. To protect fairness. A director coughed a laugh into his sleeve. The sound cut through the room like a small, sharp blade. Naomi slid the Saturday auto-reply copy across next. Mr. Morrow looked at Lydia. You saw these? He asked. I received them, Lydia said. I raised a question with infra. I was told deduplication runs were vendor recommended. And now, he asked, I believe we deleted what should have been studied, she said, and I believe the study will hurt. Thank you, Mr. Morrow said, and meant that, too. In the pause that followed, you could hear the HVAC change its mind about the room. Mr. Morrow collected the papers like a priest collecting confessions. Audit committee will meet at noon, he said. Mr. Kincaid, refrain from communications with staff about this matter. Ms. Hart, assist the committee. Kincaid nodded like a man in a hostage video. Of course, he said. When Naomi left the room, she felt the hinge knock again, a tiny sound that reminded her what doors did when pushed. In the elevator, Lydia stepped in and pressed L. They didn't speak for 6 floors. At the last, Lydia said, You'll get your subpoenas at 9. You okay? Naomi asked. No, Lydia said, honest. But I'm squared. The doors opened on a lobby that smelled like money pretending to be flowers. They parted without looking back. Carter waited outside the building wearing a coat that had outlived 3 winters. He fell into step without invitation. How loud is this? He asked. Loud enough, Naomi said. I can hold 2 days. He said, then I run it. Hold 1, she said. We'll give you an on-record source. His eyebrows lifted. Hart, an officer, she said. That's all I can promise. He nodded and kept time with her stride. For what it's worth, he said, they've stopped calling you angry. What am I now? She asked. Effective, he said. They hate that more. They stopped under the awning while Rain lost the will to be dramatic. A quiet beat stretched between traffic breaths. Naomi pulled the tape and eased out 2 inches. The metal caught a smear of gray light. Carter watched it. Then here. You always carry that? Yes, she said. What does it measure? He asked. Whether I still believe myself? She said. He huffed something that might have been a laugh. Hold, he said again, and peeled off toward a coffee shop that didn't know. It housed a deadline. By afternoon, rumors leaked like a ship never built for sea, an internal Slack channel lit with anonymous courage. Someone posted the memo code, someone else posted the Saturday window. Jensen Kroll messaged comms, kill switch now, and watched the bubble blink like Morse for despair. Kincaid recorded a video for staff. He wore regret and the lighting that forgives men. We are committed to learning, he said. We will pause to review. He pronounced review, like revere. Comment disabled. On the loading dock, Reggie shared a cigarette. He didn't light with a janitor who had seen too much to say less than he had to. He's sweating, the janitor said. Good. Reggie said. Bad. The janitor said. Sweat makes men slippery. Then we hold the floor, Reggie said, and flicked ash that didn't exist into a puddle that did. Night pressed its face to the windows again. The war room returned to its native pulse screens, breath, fans. Naomi set the hinge on the table, turned it in her fingers, felt the stubborn give of cleaned metal. She laid the tape beside it and extended the blade to 4 inches. Lock. Hold. Rhea brushed past. Shoulder to shoulder. Audit committee at noon, she said. EEOC at 9. AGA already stamped. 2 doors open. 1 inch to spare. Andre leaned back, neck cracking. Carter's waiting, he said. He'll get his inch, Naomi said. She released the lock and listened to the blade slide home. Clean. Certain. The sound was small, but the room heard it. Outside, the city pulsed, not louder, merely unafraid to be heard. Inside, the hinge caught one thin thread of streetlight and held it like a truth you could touch. The building's revolving doors pushed back like stubborn water. Naomi stepped through with the marshal at her shoulder, the subpoena packet tight under his arm, the air smelling of citrus polish and fresh toner trying to be brave. Rhea walked beside her, hair tied with courtroom precision. Andre carried the pelican case like something alive. Time, Naomi asked. Limba, Wushitsi, Rhea said. They open at 9. The marshal nodded to the front desk. Service on Nexum Technologies, he said. EEOC subpoena, Attorney General writ, Audit Committee notice. The security guard new guy, eager, checked a list that had already given up. He buzzed them through with a sound like a small alarm. The elevator exhaled cold. Naomi felt the hinge in her bag knock once against the tape measure, metal on metal. The briefest kiss. Upstairs. The lobby lights ran in a line so straight it made her eyes ache. Lydia met them outside Conference A with a clipboard and the look of a person who had chosen her own consequences. Committee room is keyed, she said. Infra Ops is assembling logs. Operations conference room. Andre asked. Port 4, Lydia said. As discussed. Chain begins. Now, Rhea said, and wrote 0901 on the log in a hand that never stuttered. Mr. Morrow arrived, fountain pen ready, eyes unglamorous and alert. He read the subpoenas the way a pilot reads crosswinds. We'll take custody, he said. He nodded to the marshal, to Lydia, to Naomi, as if blessing each name without religion. A door opened at the end of the hall. Kincaid appeared with Jensen at his wake. He smiled with all the right teeth. We're cooperating, he said, and meant only the verb, then stand clear, Morrow said, not looking at him. Of course, Kincaid said, and did not. Infra Ops had made a theater of compliance carts with labeled drives, a printed map of the data center, coffee nobody would ever drink. The head of Ops, a tall woman named NG, wore a badge heavy with keys and zero patience for rhetoric. Saturday windows, she said. Here are logs. Here is the cron tab. Here is the change ticket authorizing deduplication. We patch at 1400, done by 17. Who signed? Rhea asked. Eng tapped the sheet. Ops manager, co-signed by HR. Names? Andres said. Me. He said. And Hrops too. Shared mailbox until legal closed it yesterday. Imaging procedure, Naomi said. Ung stepped aside. Read-only mount. Right blocker. SHA-256 on image and source. Output to worm drive. She sounded like a manual someone had finally decided to trust. Conklin arrived in corduroy and ritual, nodded to the blocker's green light, initialed the seal. The marshal hovered by the door like a polite storm. In the corner, Jensen pretended to be a plant. The first drive went on the cart. Andre started the hash. Numbers spilled orderly, indifferent to the room's pulse. He read the string aloud. Rewrote. Ing watched. Naomi counted the fan blades until the counting made sense. Kincaid sidled closer. How long? He asked. As long as it takes, Morrow said. We have a business to run. Kincaid said. Run it. Morrow said. Not this part. Kincaid's jaw flexed. He stood with his hands behind his back the way men do when they want to look harmless. At 09, Saint-Shabat, the power flickered, a brief dimming, a hiccup of light, the room's breath, catching, monitors blinked. The hash stalled and resumed. Neg looked up, eyes narrowing. We're on UPS. She said, that's not normal. Cause, Rhea asked. Facility. Gunn said, already moving, or someone's playing. The ops team split, one to the breaker panel, another to the network closet nobody ever wanted to open during business hours. Naomi followed Nay, the marshal behind them, Lydia at her elbow. The hall smelled like burnt dust and warm wire. They reached a door stamped Ops Conf, the one with the port 4 that had lived like a rumor in Naomi's head. Ung slid her badge. The latch buzzed, slow and reluctant. The door swung with a soft hush. The room beyond was half meeting, half nerve. A table, fourchère, a bank of switches, a whiteboard with a to-do list that admitted it was lying. A man in an infra-ops hoodie straightened from under the table, a cable in his hand that wasn't plugged in yet. He froze with the caught look animals get when they remember they're visible. Name, Ngen said. Marcus, he said, as if it would help. Why are you here? Morrow asked. Ticket, Marcus said. Too fast. Hotfix. Show me, Nge said. He produced a printed ticket that had all the right fonts and the wrong feel. Ing scanned it, jaw tightening. Who approved? Jensen, he said, and realized too late which answer would break which bone. Jensen appeared in the doorway, face pleasant and damp. We need stability, he said. Investors are jittery. We're tidying. On subpoena morning, Morrow said, flat enough to be a blade. Coincidence, Jensen said. He smiled like someone had offered him a glass and told him it was water. The marshal stepped forward. No changes, he said, voice quiet. The way only trained men make voices quiet. Step back from the equipment. Jensen opened his hands the way people do when they want to prove they can't fly. Let's not be theatrical, he said. Ing reached into the rack and tapped a small device. Naomi wouldn't have noticed, no bigger than a deck of cards, lipsticked in a world of black. What's this? She asked. Marcus swallowed. Jensen lost the color he hadn't earned. Cash, Marcus said. Dropbox. Nick corrected, fingers already pulling photos with her phone. She turned the device over. A sticker read AUX P4 with a date scrawled in someone's hurry hand. Chain, Rhea said, holding out a fresh putch. Bag it. Ing powered the device down by the book, waited for the light to die, slid it into anti-static, then into evidence plastic. Naomi wrote the time and the serial. Conklin initialed the seal. The marshal wrote César 09. 4 inches his block letters, and felt better for the act. Kincaid appeared in the doorway as if the room had summoned him. He took in the plastic, the device, the faces. What is that? He asked. Too even. Something you'll explain, Morrow said. Kincaid's gaze found Jensen's and flinched. It was small, but it cut. This is obstruction, he said to the room, choosing a fence because it was available. Only if you plugged it in, Morrow said. Jensen tried to laugh and failed. Do you know what this will do to the stock? He asked. And there it was, the sentence you don't say in rooms with officers. The marshal wrote it down in a small notebook, each word spaced like a fence post. Lydia didn't look at anyone when she exhaled. Shall we continue imaging? Naomi asked, voice even as stone. Please, Morrow said. They left the red box in its pouch, tagged and numbered, and returned to the hash that had resumed like a heart finding itself again. Andre read the next Shah 256 in a tone that had relearned steadiness. Conklin measured signatures with his absurd ruler. Rhea checked that the time on the hash log matched the wall clock they could all see. Kincaid stood at the glass and watched his reflection. It did not help him. By 11, sure. They had images of the Saturday logs, the cron tabs, the change tickets. The video from the corridor camera, whose angle caught Marcus at the door at 09. Sancho-san. Ning produced a visitor log that required initials. Marcus's M had the guileless slope of a man who believed paper could be kind. Secure it, Morrow said. Committee at noon. They carted the drives back to Conference A. The room smelled like stress and high-end carpet. Naomi set the Pelican case on the table. Andre placed the hash printouts in a neat perpendicular stack. Lydia rested both palms on the conference table as if steadying furniture that might try to move. Kincaid took a step toward the head chair. The chairwoman of the committee took it first. Her hair was perfect in a way that made your excuses wilt. Mr. Kincaid, she said, you'll sit. He did. Mr. Morrow recited the morning-like liturgy. Service at 09. Lingi. Imaging at 09. Shiwu. Fligadni, Sanchaba, device Zeitcher at 09. Sishaluk, imaging complete by 11. Shirar. He slid the pouch across as if it were something that could burn. This was found in operations, he said. Unlogged. We will forensically examine. Kincaid didn't blink. Jensen did. Twice. Ms. Hart, the chairwoman said. Have you seen this device before? No, Lydia said, and I oversee ops budgets. Mr. Coker, the chair asked, addressing Nexum's counsel. Coker swallowed irritation and stood. We are unprepared to comment, he said. We'll cooperate fully. See that you do, the chair said. She turned to Naomi with a gaze that had settled wars. Ms. Ellison, she said. Thank you for your insistence. Naomi inclined her head and felt nothing congratulatory, only the tired accuracy of work done under weight. In the quiet before the next person spoke, a vent clicked, and the sound crossed the ceiling like distant heel taps. Naomi reached into her bag and found the tape. She slid it out 1 inch, then 2, the blade catching a thin band of the room's light. She locked it and felt the metal hold. Her phone buzzed against her hip. Carter, holding until 5, then gravity, then a second buzz from an unknown number. You've opened the door, watch it swing. Naomi slid the tape back with that clean, closing whisper. She watched Kincaid's throat work around a word that wouldn't go down. She noted Lydia's hand, flat and still, as if pressing paper to keep it from curling. The chair lifted her pen and tapped it twice on the wood. We recess for 1 hour, she said. Do not touch the logs. They stood. The room exhaled. Outside, the noon light was white and thin. Naomi stepped into it and tasted metal on the air, as if the city itself had been cut and was now deciding whether to bleed. She touched the hinge through the bag. Hold the frame. The committee reconvened into the white noon glare of Conference A. Coffee steamed without being touched. The sealed pouch sat center table like a heart in a museum. Mr. Morrow stood where light didn't flatter. Fountain Pen Park, eyes on the clock. We resume at 13. Lindsay, he said, for the record, custody continuous. The chairwoman nodded. Proceed. Nung from InfraOps rolled in a cart holding a loaner workstation she'd just requisitioned like a winch. She wore antistatic cuffs and a look that made arguments shorter. Read only adapter, she said, lifting the red device with 2 fingers as if it might lie. Air-gapped unit. Camera recording. Rhea opened a fresh log. Conklin uncapped his absurd little ruler. Andre leaned close enough to see and far enough to breathe. Ing connected power. The device blinked alive. A single blue LED. She drove a tiny spudger into its seam and lifted the lid with the delicacy of a surgeon and the contempt of a mechanic. Inside, a micro SD, a sliver of board, a printed label, AUX P4. She slid the card into the reader. The workstation recognized it with a neutral chirp. Directory list, he said. The screen filled with tidy folders that made everyone's stomach sink. Logs, snap, uplink, conf. Ria leaned in. Open uplink. Nung double-click. A short list. Names like fresh footprints. Hashes. Andres said. Engran she dua lima nam. He spoke each long string into the air. Rewrote. Conklin measured the width of her numbers, like a man convinced inches can keep the world honest. Nung opened Confer. A YAML file glowed. She read aloud. Uplink. Au port 4 archive. She stopped. The room moved closer. Keys. The line held redacted secrets. Schedule. Saturday 1000. 400 to 1000. 700 local. The chairwoman's pen tapped twice. Destination. She asked. S3 bucket. Nays said. Cloud storage. Whoever owns the keys owns the copies. Who created this? Mr. Morrow asked. Metadata. Knight clicked. Created by Sacroll. She read. That's Jensen. Jensen's smile misfired. An unfortunate overlap, he said. S.A.K. could be. Your middle initial is A, Lydia said. Flat. S.A. Kroll. Silence found its chair and sat. Check logs, Naomi said. Ing opened the folder. Text files. Lined up like receipts. Connect 20251018. TXT. Connect 20251019. TXT. She opened yesterday's. The cursor blinked above a stack of dates and little victories. Shus. Ling San. 21 link up. Sursit. Ling Si. Do objects cood. San. Shusit. Ling Wu. 12 upload. OK. Shiti. Sarar. 00 link down. Chain of custody on the card. Mr. Morrow asked, already knowing the answer. Device appeared unsecured in operations. No said, which is a polite way to say no. Then this becomes ours now. Mr. Morrow said, we'll image, seal, and seek warrants for the bucket. The chairwoman turned her face to Kincaid. Explain. He looked at his counsel first, then at the window. That was not a door. We had concerns about vendor reliability, he said. This was a redundancy cache. Internal. Protective. Then why S3? Ria asked. Because modernity, Kincaid offered, halfway to humor, all the way to hubris. Jensen cleared his throat and stepped forward like a man walking into traffic with conviction. I instructed Marcus to create a safeguard, he said. We feared sabotage, external bad actors. It was prudent, except you installed it during service. Mr. Morrow said, timing was unfortunate. Jensen said, timing matches your comms calendar, Andres said, sliding a printout forward with a fingertip. Blog hits at 1400. Cache engages at 14. Ling San. Kincaid rolled his shoulders as if that could throw weight off the facts. Mr. Marcus, the chairwoman said, turning toward the doorway. The infra-ops tech hovered there. Hoodie string twisted around his finger until circulation had its say. Did you place this device? He nodded, then remembered words. Yes. On whose instruction? Jensen, he said. And? Ops had tickets. Neg stiffened. Ops had nothing, she said. Marcus's mouth worked. I thought is not evidence. Mr. Morrow said, Sit. Marcus sat. The chair scolded the floor. The chairwoman faced Kincaid again. You have 30 minutes to produce all communications regarding this device, she said, paper and digital. After that, we will proceed without your story. Kincaid smiled the way men do when they think smiling is a negotiation. We'll cooperate, he said. You'll comply, she said. Outside. The hallway smelled like lemon again. And something underneath it, ozone. Like the air had been scolded. Naomi leaned her shoulder to a window that didn't open. Her phone buzzed. Sir Sit, 30 heads up. From Carter, then, peace at 5, need on record. She typed, you'll have one line. He sent back a single star. Ree stood beside her, watching dust drift in the light like finely shredded paper. This is the part where they hurt themselves, she said. They already started. Naomi said, you okay? Rhea asked. She felt for the hinge through the bag. It's cool weight, a fact. Square, she said. Down the hall, Lydia pressed her palms to a cool stone ledge and looked like a person choosing a bridge to burn. Reggie moved past, a clipboard in hand, neutral, invisible, invaluable. He didn't look at Naomi, which is how he told her he was working. Conklin emerged from Conference A with a sealed pouch, initialed and unhappy. We need the AG to move on that bucket, he said. Today, they will, Rhea said. They like keys. At 14, Sanchitsi, Nexum's counsel returned with a stack of printed emails and an attaché case that had spent its life practicing gravitas. Mr. Morrow divided the stack like bread. Rhea took half and began the quick read that looks like magic until you learn the trick. Subject lines, routing, team stamps, tone. She found it first. Subject, red box optics. From Sackrol to D. Kincaid. Communications. Dated the same Saturday as the delays. Naomi read over her shoulder. Align cache with comms. Avoid the 1400 optics. Run quiet. If subpoenaed, frame as vendor K.A. Rhea laid the page in front of Mr. Morrow like a scalpel. He did not smile. He did not need to. He slid it to the chairwoman, who did something rare. She let her mouth go hard. Kincaid, she said. He stayed smooth. We were protecting your stock price, Naomi said. The words left her mouth before permission could catch them. A few heads turned. No one corrected her. Kincaid's jaw moved. Ms. Ellison has been disruptive from the start, he said. We welcome diligence. She brought theatrics. Your theatrics included a device designed to copy during a wipe window. Mr. Morrow said, your words named optics. Optics are not compliance. Jensen tried to inhale a better universe and failed. We were buying time. There it was, the admission that didn't sound like one until you heard the room go quiet around it. Counsel, the chairwoman said to Coker, advise your client to suspend himself pending this investigation. Coker blinked twice, recovered, nodded once like the weight of a century had landed on his tongue. He leaned to Kincaid, whispered law. Kincaid stared at the far wall and measured the distance to a life he could no longer reach. Effective, immediately, Coker said. Noted. The chair said, Ms. Hart, you'll serve as liaison to the committee. Operations will report directly to you for the duration. Lydia's throat worked. Understood, she said. Her hands stayed flat. And the device, the chairwoman asked, in AG custody by 1500, Mr. Morrow said. Make it 1455, she said. The day tilted. The AG's office stamped the chain with a new line of ink and a clerk's initials that looked like a child had learned sternness. Naomi watched the pouch vanish into a metal drawer and felt something old uncoil in her ribs. At 16, Lingar, Ria's phone lit with the EEOC docket. Retaliation inquiry converted to formal charge. Interview scheduling to follow. Conklin grunted like a man approving a bridge's rivets. Carter texted a draft headline without asking permission. The red box. How optics replaced compliance. She didn't bless it. She didn't need to. The facts would do it for her. They returned to the office in a light that had sharpened its edges. The war room smelled like printer heat and a bowl of oranges someone had finally remembered to eat. Andre pinned the new hash table to the board. The column of numbers looked like a poem to certain people. These were those people. Naomi's phone rang. Unknown. She answered because she still did. Reggie, he said. They let me go. How? She asked. A form, he said. Cited restructuring. My badge died in the elevator. Their faces didn't. She let the silence be the thing it was. Come by, she said. Now? Can't, he said. Got a call from a union friend. They need me to remember. I can do that. Take care, she said. You too, he said. Keep the floor. He hung up. The loss sat down beside her and didn't pretend to be anything else. At 16, Wushaba, Carter's piece went live. The office didn't cheer. The office watched the comments thread begin its animal work and then turned away. Press was air. Evidence was brick. Naomi grabbed her keys. 10 minutes, she told Rhea. Fresh air. She drove the 3 miles to Ellison Measure. Frame at a speed the city understood. The bell didn't ring. The front window did spidered, then cracked, then lost. Glass lay on the floor like a winter lake. The workbench still held shape. The old tools were where she had left them. The hinge she'd cleaned sat on the desk, small and certain, a survivor by design. The air smelled like wet plaster and the copper ghost of blood. She knelt, picked up a shard, saw her face break into points and gather itself again. On the wall, someone had scrawled in marker a sentence that used the wrong words for right reasons. Stop. Under it, smaller. Go back. She stood, lifted the hinge, felt its cool agreement in her palm. Doors swing, frames hold. She wiped a line of dust from the workbench where her father's hands had worn the wood smooth. She didn't cry. That would come later, or not. She locked the back door, because habit was a kind of armor. Outside, the sky had lost patience and gone dark without the courtesy of purple. Sirens stitched a line somewhere else. Naomi drove back through a city that had decided to be itself for one more night. The war room looked up when she entered, read the glass dust on her coat, and understood without questions. Rhea handed her a paper cup that steamed. Andre reached out and, not knowing what else to do, put the tape measure in her hand. She pulled the blade to 6 inches and held it there. It trembled, then steadied. The metal knew its work. Extend. Lock. Return. Tomorrow, Rhea said. Tomorrow, Naomi echoed. Her phone buzzed once more. Lydia, board at 08. Linling. Jensen. Lawyering. Kincaid suspended. Then another from the AG clerk. Device imaging complete. Keys lead to Norcross alias. Then Carter, they're calling it hubris in the comments. And finally, from an unknown number, a single line. We are not done. She set the hinge beside the tape, 2 small truths under a big sky. The city outside pressed its face to the glass and breathed. The room listened to the HVAC click and the monitor's hum. The frame held, for now, at 07:56. The boardroom was already full. Windows faced east, catching a thin line of sun that made the glass feel cold from the inside. Naomi sat 2 chairs from the end, hinge in her bag, tape measure under her palm like a pulse. Rhea's pad lay open, a column of time stamps in the margin. Andre had the pelican case at his feet, like a dog waiting orders. The chairwoman rapped her knuckles once. Time, she said. Custodi continuous. Agenda circulated. On the far side, Dorian Kincaid stared at the winter blue skyline, and not at the table that had held him for so long. His lawyer, Coker, sat tight and gray. Jensen Kroll occupied his small, expensive portion of air with a studied meekness that smelled like cologne and trouble. Mr. Morrow unpacked the morning like a box of scalpels. Attorney General imaging complete. At 21. Sushasik, he said. Device dubbed Red Box. Contained configs, pointing to an S3 bucket registered to a Norcross alias. He placed a photocopy on the table. It showed a rectangle of text, black blocks where secrets had been, a line visible beneath. Affidavit from the AG, Rhea added, sliding the notarized sheet across. The seal caught the light without trying. Chain of custody appended. Warrant application prepared. The chairwoman lifted a second page. Email from Sackroll. Align cache with comms. Avoid the 1400 optics. Run quiet. Her voice made the words ashamed to exist. Mr. Kroll. Jensen cleared his throat. I wrote that, he said, choosing one truth in a pile of them. It was unfortunate phrasing. We feared a coordinated hit by hostile actors. We, actors included your own device, Morrow said, and your alias, Rhea said, and your timing, Andre added, not unkind. Kincaid spoke for the first time, voice pitched soft, as if volume could erase the last month. We were protecting our people from a smear, he said. The market punishes noise. We managed noise. We subpoenaed truth, Naomi said. He looked at her. Everyone always did. Eventually, you broke a company to polish a point, he said. She kept her hands still. The point is, the company, she said. The chairwoman tapped her pen twice. Ms. Hart, she said. Lydia didn't touch the papers. She looked at the men, then at the line of mourning on the glass. I recommended audit oversight last fall, she said. It was rejected. I approved culture fit early in my tenure and then revoked it. I saw the Saturday windows. I asked, and I was told vendor. I know better now. Recommendation. The chairwoman said. Suspend Kincaid, Lydia said. Terminate Kroll for cause. Cooperate fully with regulators. Publish pay equity. Make retention and promotions transparent. Link comp to those metrics. Build a wall around operations and cut an open door to the truth. Silence lifted its head. People don't breathe between one world ending and the next beginning. Coker raised a hand a quarter inch. We object to. Objection noted, the chairwoman said. Call the vote. Hands rose, some quick, some betrayed by a tremor. A director with the too large watch hesitated, nodded to himself, lifted his fingers like a man surrendering to gravity. The chairwoman counted, breathed, counted again. Suspension of Mr. Kincaid, she said. 8-1. Termination of Mr. Kroll, she continued, voice steady. Unanimous. Jensen exhaled the way a tire does when steel finally wins. He didn't stand. He didn't speak. He watched his hands as if they were leaving without him. Kincaid adjusted his cuff. It was a small, human act. It was also ridiculous. One more. Mr. Morrow said. He held up a printout of a chat log. Sacral. Marcus at 09:29 yesterday. Swap bucks. If anyone asks, call it QA. A second line at 09. Sashayi. Don't log it. Obstruction when under service. He said, AG is interested. Jensen's mouth opened and stayed that way. Coker placed a palm flat on the table, pushing air, as if pressure could buy time. The chairwoman closed her binder. We will inform the market at 10. Ling Ling, she said. Ms. Hart will serve as interim operations liaison. We will convene a compensation committee at 13:00 to restructure incentives. Ms. Ellison, she turned to Naomi. Your firm's conditions. Naomi felt the tape spine under her hand. She eased the blade 1 inch. Metal caught light. Two things, she said. Independent audit with public checkpoints, and a seat at the table for those who've been standing. She looked at Lydia, then passed her to no one. Not my seat. Theirs. A beat. A breath. The hinge in her bag knocked once against the tape like a pact between nouns. Accepted, the chairwoman said. The press conference smelled like hot lights and the furry heat of microphones. Carter stood at the back, hands in pockets, face that small half-smile he wore when the facts had done their work for him. Naomi didn't go to the podium. She stood by the wall and watched the stage work Morrow's plain sentences, the chairwoman's measured apology, Lydia's promise without adornment. We will publish our numbers. We will be audited. We will accept the findings. A reporter asked about the red box. Another asked about culture fit. Someone asked about Naomi by name, tried to conjure angry from old vocabulary. The chairwoman answered with accurate instead. At 10, Ling San. Phones across the room buzzed in sympathetic rhythm. The market had opinions. Rhea watched the tape scroll by on her screen, saw the dip, the pause, and the slow, stubborn climb like an exhale that had to fight for daylight. Naomi stepped into a hallway and called Conklin. He was already with the AG. Obstruction charge likely for Kroll, he said. Norcross alias opens a second door. Would you prefer to testify or file the affidavit? Affidavit, she said. Then testimony, if they need the face. You're better in rooms, he said. But the paper has teeth and a memory, she said. When she hung up, Martin's name slid to the top of her messages like a bad penny. Proud of you, was all it said. She typed be well, deleted it, typed nothing, and let the blue bubble sit there, unread and unjudged. At 12, Lin Luke. The EEOC investigator dialed in. Monotony voice. Careful diction. A checklist that refused to apologize for existing. We are opening a formal investigation, she said. We will request records of promotions, terminations, and pay bans. We will interview current and former employees. Retaliation will be monitored. Rhea confirmed dates. Andre offered the clean chain in 10 words. Lydia named names without flourish. Naomi listened to the language wrap around air and become a scaffold. At 13, Ling Ling. The compensation committee met. By 13, Sanchati, they had a draft. Executive bonuses tied to retention across bands. OD scores posted every quarter, and ombuds with actual teeth. Lydia's signature went on the bottom with a hand that didn't shake. At 14, Cherie, a sheriff's deputy, served a notice of termination to Jensen Kroll in the lobby. He refused to take the envelope. It lay on the carpet for a full minute before a guard picked it up and placed it on a chair. The way you move something you're not sure is fragile. At 15, Arshaba. Reggie texted Naomi a photo of a break room where people were clapping without moving their feet. They named the Saturday window. He wrote, people are telling stories out loud. She typed, hold the floor. He sent back, we are. She did one more thing before the day lost its edges. She drove to the shop with the broken window and the quiet bell and laid the hinge on the workbench. The light came in slant, found the silver she had cleaned, and gave it back. She took out a new hinge from a brown bag, solid brass, 3 screws each leaf. She unscrewed the old bathroom door hinge, the one that always squealed and warned customers away from their own faces. Wood dust rose, sweet and old. She fitted the brass, aligned the knuckles, dropped the pin with a clear, small chime. The door swung open. The door swung closed. Smooth. True. She set the bent hinge beside the tape and extended the blade to 7 inches. Lock engaged. Pain throbbed in her forearm where glass had nipped. She ignored it. She listened to the room breathe. Her phone buzzed from the workbench. Lydia, board-approved standards. We're hiring a CPO with teeth. Carter, the door you tried to close. Tomorrow's headline. Conklin, AG interview Wednesday. Lingzhou, Sancher, Reggie. Someone fixed the paper towel dispenser. We're starting small. Martin again. Take care of yourself. She let that one drift. She cleaned the glass until the floor could forgive shoes again. She taped cardboard over the window. It wasn't beautiful. It was honest. Sometimes that's what you get. Outside, the sky tried on gold and decided to keep it for a while. Traffic murmured. Somewhere. A boy laughed. The quick, breaking sound of someone discovering a trick that will never stop working. Naomi locked up, slipped the tape and the bent hinge into her bag, and drove back to the war room that had taught itself to be a heart. Rhea was waiting with takeout and the weariness of a soldier between battles. Andre had slept and looked guilty about it. Conklin sent a thumbs-up emoji by accident. Then a text, "Ignore that." It made her smile, small and true. They ate out of cartons while the city softened around them. News crawlers scrolled. Comments argued. Markets charted their own weather. Lydia sent a selfie no one would ever publish. Hair down, tea loose, a whiteboard behind her with 3 words circled. Audit, publish, repair. Tomorrow, Andre asked. Tomorrow, Naomi said. She pulled the tape, let out 8 inches, and held. It trembled for a moment, and then steadied. A thin ribbon of light made metal. She unlocked it and let it go. The blade slid home clean, inevitable. Right. She placed the bent hinge on the windowsill, where the streetlight could find it. The scarred metal caught the orange and held it like a lesson. Tools don't forgive. They remember. The room went quiet in that good way. Rooms do, when they finally get to be rooms. Outside, someone honked and then thought better of it. Inside, the fans exhaled. Naomi closed her eyes and pictured a door, not slamming, not locked, not ceremonial, just a door between a broken room and a better one, hung true on clean brass. When she opened them, the hinge glowed like a patient ember. She touched it with one fingertip, grounding the day. Hold the frame, she whispered. The night agreed. At its core, this story speaks to the quiet courage of those who refuse to look away. It reminds us that justice often begins not with a grand gesture, but with a steady hand that says, enough. When power disguises itself as procedure, when silence feels safer than truth, standing firm becomes an act of rebellion and of grace. Naomi's journey isn't about vengeance. It's about dignity. It's about understanding that self-worth is not something given by titles, approval, or circumstance. It's something measured, inch by inch, by how we choose to act when no one else will. In life, we all encounter doors, some that close in our faces, others that test whether we'll knock again. This story reminds us that the hinge between silence and change is forged by persistence, as Americans like to say. The truth will out, because real integrity doesn't need applause. It needs endurance. Whether you're facing discrimination at work, a toxic relationship, or the weight of being misunderstood, remember, you are not powerless. You hold the hinge. You decide which doors stay shut and which open toward light. If this story stirred something in you, If it made you think about a time you stood your ground, or a moment you wished you had, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what justice and self-respect mean to you. Tap like if you believe small acts of courage can change the system, and subscribe for more stories that reveal how resilience shapes the world we live in. May your evening end with peace, and your tomorrow begin with quiet strength, because every frame holds when we choose to hold it together.